welcome back to my channel. My name is Paige and this is my open book. We're coming at you today with a part 2 to my dark romance book recommendations. I did a part 1 last month. I will leave that linked in the cards as well as down below. And you guys really seem to like it, so we're coming at you with a part 2 because I actually made a list of all my favorite dark romance books last month and I can only fit half of them in that video. So this is part 2. So grab a drink, grab a snack, and let's talk about some more of my favorite dark romance books. Okay, just like in that first video, I wanted to give like different levels of darkness in these recommendations. So we're gonna start off with some like lighter ones that I think the romance itself isn't necessarily dark, but there are some dark things that happen to the characters or some dark things that they go through. So we're going to start with Longshot by Kennedy Ryan. And I need to read more by this author because I feel like she is really good at packing like hard topics and emotional depth into her romance books. This one in particular, on the surface, looks like just a regular old sports romance. It's a basketball romance, actually. And it starts off innocently enough. These two characters have a meet-cute at a bar. She is at a bar, I think, watching a basketball game. And she's just, like, there by herself in comfy clothes, like, not trying to impress anybody. She's just there at the bar, being a basketball fan. Like, you know, she's just, like, cheering at the TV. Then he comes up, and they have an instant connection. They're talking to each other. He really likes her, and unfortunately, he finds out that she's taken. She's not single. So you're immediately like heartbroken, like, oh, this is devastating. Like, they're clearly meant to be together, you know? So he has to watch her be with this other guy. And this is where it kind of takes a darker turn. Be sure to check trigger warnings. But there is unfortunately some domestic violence that the female character goes through with the boyfriend that she has at the time, or I think fiance. I can't remember if they're married or engaged or what. So she definitely goes through some dark things. So I think that's where the darkness comes into this book. So I think this could be something to see, like, if you're okay with reading about these kinds of things in books without it ruining the love story part of it. Does that make sense? So that's why I wanted to give this recommendation. This is the first in a trilogy and I have not read the other 2 books yet, but this one was really, really good. I gave it 4 stars. Thought I would let you know about it in case you haven't heard about it yet, or if you looked at it and just thought, oh, this is just a regular schmegular basketball romance. It's not. This is a heavy hitter, let me tell you. Okay, the next one that I wanted to recommend for you is a paranormal romance. This is Court of the Vampire Queen by Katie Robert. So I've talked about Katie Robert books in my previous dark romance recommendations video. This one is a vampire romance. And the female main character, she basically gets sold off by her dad to be the like blood source to this vampire, and it's kind of like a political deal, so there is some like political drama going on. So I think that brings a darkness to it because clearly her father like doesn't care about her because he just sells her off like nothing, and she's obviously going to be used by this vampire. She finds out that there's more to her and to her backstory than meets the eye, and she kind of discovers this while being like the blood servant to this vampire. And then he has some friends that also get involved, so there's group activities, and then it just totally spirals from there. Like, at the beginning you think it's just going to be like a smutty vampire romance, but no, it turns into this big, like, so much drama and political things going on and like action, and yeah, this gets intense. So this is another one that I think is like a sneaky dark romance because yes, it has the paranormal aspect, but this definitely goes beyond that. So highly recommend checking it out. I literally read this in one sitting and it's over 500 pages, so I feel like that says enough. Next up, we're going with an old favorite of mine. This is Scarlett St. Clair's Hades and Persephone series. Now, this is a Greek retelling, and as we know, those Greek gods and goddesses are fucked up, okay? And Scarlett St. Clair definitely goes there, but she gives it a more of a modern take. So in her world, there are gods and goddesses, but most of the society is just regular people. And the female main character, Persephone, she doesn't really meet the title of being a goddess at this point. You know, she's just like a regular girl. Her mom is a goddess, but she hasn't really, like, she doesn't have powers. She's not in power in any way. She's just a regular girl. She wants to just have a regular life. She wants to go to college and just be a regular person. Well, Hades sets his sight on her, and we all know how it goes from there. He ends up basically like being really possessive of her And of course all this bad stuff starts happening in the world that they live in, and it's like them against the world, and it's just great. We all love the Hades and Persephone story for a reason. There's a reason why so many authors redo it. We just love like the whole villain gets the girl energy, and we love that the like good girl gone bad, or you know, like she seems innocent but she's really not. You know, this just delivers on all of that. And this is definitely like textbook dark romance. Like the things they do together definitely cross that line. And it's just so good, you guys. It's so good. And I haven't even read the other part of this series that's from Hades' point of view. I haven't even read that yet, but I'm obsessed. This series as a whole is one of my favorite series of all time, and I highly recommend you checking it out. If you haven't read it yet, please, you have to. You have to. Next up, we have some Mafia vibes, because you guys know I love a good Mafia dark romance. So basically this series by Mila Finelli is so good. Like, I thought this one went viral on TikTok a long time ago. I thought it was just gonna be like your standard run-of-the-mill Mafia romance, which at first it kind of is. Like, it's like an arranged marriage situation. I think she's supposed to get with his son, but then he ends up taking her for himself instead. So you have like a major age gap in here, and it's taboo because she's supposed to be marrying his son, but he, you know, is wanting to blur the lines anyway, and kind of gives like captor-captive energy, because even though it's like an arranged marriage situation, it's almost like she's there against her will sometimes. So like it blurs that line. And yeah, it's just a really good time, and it definitely goes from there. There's a whole series now. I've only read the first 2 books. The second book totally takes it up a notch. Like, it definitely, in the first book, I feel like it's more of your like run-of-the-mill Mafia romance that kind of fits the regular formula. Bad guy, good girl who's forced to marry against her will, and then she ends up liking it, and then they, you know, become a power duo together or whatever. But the second book really takes it up a notch. I think she gets kidnapped by somebody else. So then you have that whole like side plot going on. Plus there's a side plot going on with the guy she was originally supposed to marry. So I found that part really interesting too. Yeah, this one really good. Don't sleep on it. It was overhyped at the beginning, but it's still really solid, and I recommend if you haven't checked it out yet. Okay, the next one is by Fiona Cole. This is Where You Can Find Me. This is another sneaky dark romance in my opinion. So this one starts off where the female main character is in a club, and she has this instant connection with this guy on the dance floor, and they get really hot and heavy together. I think at first it's like a forbidden romance of some kind. I can't remember why. I read this so long ago. This is like one of the first romance books I ever read back in probably like 2020. At first you just think it's a regular romance. Like, she can tell there's something dark about him, but she doesn't really know. And then somehow they get wrapped up in this serial killer. So there's a serial killer on the loose in the city that they're in, and they somehow get involved, and it's a roller coaster from there. This is a trilogy, and I don't think it's about the same couple though in all 3 books, but I think the serial killer element is what like wraps all 3 books together. I can't remember. But yeah, don't sleep on this one. If you like serial killer romances, I recommend giving this one a try. Because like I said, it seems like a regular contemporary romance with a one-night stand. No, it goes wild, and it goes deep. So this is another hidden gem that I feel like no one talks about. Next one is not going to be a surprise, because I feel like I talk about this book all the time. Ship of Bones and Teeth by Karina Halley. You guys know Karina Halley is one of my favorite authors lately, and her range is just amazing. This one is a dark retelling of Pirates of the Caribbean meets like Little Mermaid. So the female main character, she's basically Ariel. She's obviously not named that, but let's just call a spade a spade. She used to be a mermaid, and she fell in love with Eric, so she does the spell to become a human, blah blah blah, right? We all know the story. So this starts off where she's a human with Eric, but unfortunately Eric is not who he said he was. He's a terrible person. And she no longer wants to be in this relationship. She wants to go back to being a mermaid, but she's kind of stuck because of the curse that the like sea witch put her under. Well, her and Eric get kidnapped by this rogue group of pirates. She's actually not upset though. She sees this as an opportunity. She's like, you know, we're kidnapped by pirates. I'm on the ocean. Like, this is my chance, not only to escape, but also to find the sea witch to see if I can be turned back into a mermaid. So you have that plot going on. And then the guy, the main pirate, the captain of the ship, him and I can't remember her actual name. I keep calling her Ariel, but that's not her real name in the book. Sorry. But they obviously have like their own side plot going on, and that's kind of the romance element of the book. And their romance is super dark, like lots of hate between the two of them. Like he's not a good guy, he's not a nice guy, and she's kind of a bitch too, but she is a fighter and she's strong-willed. She's not gonna let him like push her around, but he likes that about her. Like he likes that she fights back, and he definitely is the kind of guy that likes to exert his power over her. So the dynamic between them is very interesting. And what I really loved about the story is they really are monsters. Like the way that they treat each other and who they are at their core, like they're not good people. She wants to be a mermaid, but in this world, mermaids, it's like the traditional siren folklore. So like they lure men to their deaths and kill them viciously. You know, like that's what she's basically wanting to be again. So she's clearly not like a kind-hearted, innocent Ariel. Obviously the captain of the ship, the pirate who kidnapped her, he's obviously not a good guy because he's kidnapping these people and using them for his own gain. But what's beautiful about this is that their love story is almost like founded on the fact that they're not good people, but they love each other anyway. It's like they love each other, not ignoring the bad parts of them, but almost like your evilness makes you beautiful in my eyes, basically. Like I said, he loves that she fights back. He loves that she's not like a meek, innocent girl. And, you know, she loves that he's like a strong male who, you know, appreciates power. You know, like it's almost like what should be the worst parts about them are what make their love strong in a way. So I thought that was a really interesting dynamic, and I like this twist on a dark romance. You should definitely check it out if you haven't already. Especially because I've already talked about it so many times. Like, how can you not read it by now? Okay? How can you not? Next up is another sneaky one, because this is part of a series, and the beginning of the series is not dark at all, but it definitely like devolves into this. So this is the last book in a series by Lauren Landish. This book is called Dirty Secrets. This is part of her Pushing Boundaries series. So the first book is just like about like a girl who's with like a dirty talker for the first time. So like, is it really pushing that many boundaries? Whatever, not that dark. The second book I think is like an age gap romance, maybe? I don't know. The third book does kind of set up the story for this fourth book, so if you want, you probably just read books 3 and 4 and then you're fine. So in book 3, just to give you the backstory, there's a female main character who is like a reporter, but she's undercover working as a dancer at a club, and she ends up discovering this like crazy like crime lord kind of drama story going on in this club. So that kind of leads into what goes on in this last book. So this one is Dirty Secrets, and the romance element here is the male main character. He's like very high up in this crime syndicate kind of world. The female main character, she unfortunately kind of like falls victim to this other guy in the crime syndicate, so he feels like he owes it to protect her because he feels like it's his fault that she got wrapped up in this, because she also works at the club. He's the owner of the club. So he definitely takes the protectiveness a little bit far. He definitely veers on the obsessive like stalker side of things, but he really is trying to protect her, but he also sees it as like, I'm responsible for her in a way. Like, so this definitely, you know, comes off as possessive, and I think that's where the dark element comes in, because he basically like wants her all to himself and like wants to be watching her constantly. Like he always has someone watching her. He's got cameras set up at her apartment. Like he definitely takes it probably a little bit far for the real world, but like I said, when you read the book it makes sense and it really isn't creepy, I promise. Obviously that brings the dark element to it, just like the way that their romance kind of starts off, but it also ends up becoming a dark romance because of the whole crime syndicate thing going on, because, you know, they kind of have to like be on the same side and team up to try and like, you know, get her out of danger. And this guy obviously wants revenge on the other guy who got her involved in the first place. So yeah, this definitely gives a dark romance vibe. It's like kind of like Mafia, but it's not. So I feel like it's good if you don't really know if you like Mafia, because I feel like it's a good way to kind of like ease yourself into it, or if you're tired of reading about Mafia but you still want something with that vibe, then this could be a good option for you. So the way that he loves her though is just it's like, this is why we love possessive and protective heroes, because it could just turn into this, and it's just great. It's what we all need. Next up, kind of in the same realm, we have Rebel Air by Jane Diamond. So this one I found really interesting because not only does it, well, one, I love Jane Diamond, and this is a spin-off of her Dirty series. So her original series that I fell in love with was like a rock star romance, and for the band, they have friends and bodyguards that are part of this MC, this motorcycle club, right? So a lot of the guys in the motorcycle club are also bodyguards for the band. So there's a lot of like crossover with characters, which is just nostalgic for me because I love that original series. But this one follows Lex, who is one of the bodyguards. He's one of the members of the motorcycle club. And this kind of gives like friends to enemies to lovers energy, or like a second chance kind of vibe. So the female main character was friends with Lex when they were kids, and he made her sign this little agreement when they were kids saying like, if we turn, I think it's 30 and we're still single, then you have to marry me, or something like that, like some kind of like marriage contract, right? They were just kids, she didn't think anything of it. They grew apart, you know, over the years. They're not really friends anymore, whatever. Well, he comes back into her life, they get wrapped up in each other's worlds again, and you find out that Lex's dad is actually involved with, again, not the mafia, but he's definitely like involved with some crime. It's like a crime family situation, and Lex does not want to be a part of that. Yes, he's in a motorcycle club, but he does draw the line with what's acceptable and ethical versus what's not, and his dad definitely operates outside of that line. So he doesn't want anything to do with it, but his dad is still trying to force him into it because, you know, he's his heir. He has to take the throne whether he likes it or not. But Lex is going to rebel against his father, and unfortunately his father is going to try and use the female main character against him to try and like convince him to take his side, and Lex is going to fight that. So Lex is not a good guy, but he does kind of have to step in and protect her in a way, because he knows that she's going to be used in a bad way if her dad gets, or if his dad gets to her before he does. So he ends up kidnapping her, but again, it's really just to save her from his dad, okay? So you have that element going on, and I just love how this is like a combination of like a motorcycle club, but also like a crime family. Like, it gives both elements of those types of stories, which I love, because I love both of those. So to have them combined in one story, like, how could I say no? How could I say no? It's the best of both worlds. And last up, we have another serial killer romance. We've got There Are No Saints by Sophie Lark. Now, this might be cheating because I haven't read the second book yet. And this is a duology, and I know the second book kind of gives you more of his backstory. So maybe that might change my point of view. But as of right now, I still really enjoyed the first book. And at the beginning, I thought I was going to hate it. I almost DNF'd this book, to be honest. But I'm glad I stuck it out because this ended up being a really great story. Now, I will be honest, the romance is not necessarily my favorite right now. But like I said, I still have to read the second book. Maybe by then I'll be a believer in their love story. And I think what's fascinating about this book is, even though he's a serial killer, you know, he's not a good guy. He doesn't really have that many redeeming qualities, to be fully honest, in my point of view. It's still fascinating, just like from a psychological standpoint, to get glimpses from his point of view, because this is dual POV, and to kind of like see how his mindset changes, or like how he discovers feelings. Like, you almost think he's a sociopath at the beginning of the book, to be transparent. So it's interesting, like when he's around Mara, the female main character, more, and he starts feeling things, he's like, what is this feeling? Like, I don't even know how to describe it. Like, how do I define it? What is this? So I think from a psychological standpoint, it's fascinating, and that's why I liked it. I don't think it was the love story that really sold me, if I'm going to be honest with you. But the story is still really good. Like, the plot is really interesting. And it's still fascinating to read the character dynamic. The connection between these two is, like, it shouldn't happen. Like, she should not have feelings for him and he should not have feelings for her. But they kind of start to anyway. And yeah, it was just interesting to read. I feel like it was different. You know, it didn't fit the perfect or the usual mold of a serial killer romance, and I like that because I like when someone keeps me guessing, and I like when something is not predictable sometimes, just to kind of mix it up a little bit from what I usually like to read. So I recommend giving this a try. Alright guys, that's going to be it for today's video. I hope you enjoyed these dark romance recommendations. If you did, give this video a like and leave a comment down below telling me what is your favorite dark romance that you've read lately. Be sure to subscribe so you don't miss my future videos. And again, I will have part 1 linked down below if you want to go back and see some of those in case you missed them. I'll see you guys next time. Bye.